I'm standing on stage in the middle of a song. Spotlight's on me. I can feel the heat of it. The crowd is there. I can't see the faces, just this dark mass of people and the sound coming back at me. I'm in it. I'm in it. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see a hand waving at me. Come off. Get off the stage. It was Chuck Berry. I was opening for him on his European tour, and I had a 30-minute set. I was maybe halfway through, mid-song, and he wanted me off now. And here's what happened in my brain in about 2 seconds flat. He doesn't like what I'm doing. I'm not good enough. He wants me gone. Of course he does. Of course. That spiral. You know that spiral. That instant automatic leap from something just happened to this means something terrible about me. So if you've ever taken things personally, if you've ever walked away from a conversation replaying what you said, sure that someone hates you, sure you did something wrong, this is for you, because I want to show you how to stop taking everything personally. And that moment on stage with Chuck Berry is exactly where that lesson lives. So stick with me, because what happened next changed how I move through the world. So I'm on stage. Chuck Berry's waving at me. My heart is doing that thing where it kind of drops and then races at the same time. And here's what I knew about Chuck. He was notoriously unpredictable. The man was legend, and he was also known for being erratic. He didn't always know what he was going to do until he was doing it. So other musicians on that tour had told me, just roll with it. You never quite know what you're going to get. I knew this. And still my brain went straight to, it's me. That's the thing about taking things personally. It's not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's actually wired into us. And I'll get into that in a second. But in that moment, standing there with the microphone, my guitar in my hands, and an audience in front of me, I had a choice. I could spiral. I could let that signal from Chuck mean something about my worth as a performer, as a person. I could let it ruin the rest of my set, ruin my night, maybe ruin my confidence for weeks. Or I could catch myself. And what I did in that moment was ask myself a very simple question. Is this about me, or is this about him? I finished my song, I walked off the stage, I didn't freak out, and as it turned out, he was just in one of his moods. It had nothing to do with my performance. Nothing. He was just going through something. That was his stuff. But here's what I want you to sit with. I almost let someone else's stuff become my story. I almost let his erratic mood write something into the script of who I am. And that's what taking things personally does. It lets other people's stuff become yours. So why did my brain do that? Why did yours? Because it's not random. So here's the thing. We're wired for this, like evolutionarily, biologically wired. If you go back far enough, being rejected by the group was literally dangerous. You didn't survive alone. Social exclusion meant death, so your nervous system evolved to treat social rejection, someone being cold to you, someone criticizing you, someone signaling stop, as a threat signal. So your brain doesn't always know the difference between Chuck Berry is in a mood and I'm in danger. Just knows someone reacted negatively. Alert, alert. That's why the spiral is so fast. That's why it feels so visceral. That tight chest, stomach dropping feeling you get when someone snaps at you or gives you a look or doesn't text back. That's your nervous system doing its ancient job. Now, understanding that doesn't make it go away, but it does change your relationship to it. Because now you realize you're not broken. You're human. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is, most of us take that alert at face value. We let the alarm become the truth. And here's what gets interesting and a little uncomfortable. The reason that taking things personally hurts so much, the reason that that little signal from Chuck Berry could have unraveled me is what I call identity dependency. So it's when your sense of who you are leans heavily on what other people think of you. When external reactions become your internal mirror. So if someone compliments your work, you feel confident. If someone criticizes it or worse, ignores it, you feel worthless. You're outsourcing your identity. You're handling other people the pen. You're telling them to write the story of who you are. And here's the brutal honesty of that. Most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. They're managing their own chaos. They're in their own heads. That comment they made, that look they gave you, it came from their world, their stress, their history, their bad morning. So if someone snaps at you, they're not usually reacting to you. They're reacting to the third thing that went wrong today, and you happen to be standing there. So when Chuck Berry waved me off that stage, that was his mood. That was his unpredictability. That was his moment. Had nothing to do with my voice, my talent, my worth. But when your identity depends on external validation, you can't see that clearly. You can only see they reacted, therefore something's wrong with me. So the real work, is building an identity that doesn't collapse the moment someone else has a bad day. Okay, so let's get into some tools. 3 tools, practical, real ones, things I actually use. So the first one is the question I asked on that stage. Is this mine? When you feel that sting, when someone says something and you feel it land in your chest, before you do anything else, pause and ask, is this mine or is this theirs? Is this actually about me, my behavior, something I said, something I genuinely need to look at, or is it about what's happening in them right now? So 9 times out of 10, and I mean this, 9 times out of 10, it's theirs. The snappy checker clerk, the short reply from your boss, the friend who doesn't show up to your thing, the colleague who barely acknowledged your idea this morning. Most of the time, it's not about you. That's someone else's storm leaking out. Now, that other one time, when it is yours, that's valuable information. That's feedback you can actually use. The question doesn't let you off the hook. It helps you to sort the signal from the noise. Theirs, let it pass through. Yours, look at it with curiosity, not shame. Okay, tool number 2 is the observer pause. All right, 3 seconds, that's it. When something happens, when the comment lands, when the look comes, when the message doesn't come, give yourself 3 seconds before you respond, either out loud or inside your own head. So 3 seconds is long enough to interrupt the automatic loop. Stimulus, pause, then response. So most of our suffering from taking things personally actually happens in that gap between what happened and what we decide it means. So we just skip the gap. Something happens and we're already in the spiral. We're already in the story. So the observer pause is you choosing to step outside of yourself just for a moment. Not to disassociate, not to pretend you don't feel it, but to see it from a slightly wider angle. And from that angle you ask, what's actually happening here? What do I know to be true right now? And on that stage, my observer pause was noticing, I know that Chuck Berry is unpredictable. I know that this is his pattern. What do I actually know about me right now? I know that I'm singing well. I know my set is good. I know the audience love me. That's what I actually know. 3 seconds, then respond from there. And then tool number 3 is the one that does the deepest work. It's called the Identity Audit. And it's a question. Who are you when no one's watching? When no one's reacting to you? Not who you are when you're being praised. Not who you are when you're being criticized. But who are you in the silence? Because if you can only answer that question with external reference points, I'm a good teacher because my students say so, or I'm creative because people respond to my work, then your identity is rented. It's always at risk. Anyone could take it from you on any given day. But if you know yourself from the inside, if you know your values, what you stand for, what you keep choosing even when no one's looking, that's an identity that holds. That's a foundation that doesn't shake every time someone has a bad day. I had to build this from scratch. I won't go into it all now, but there was a time where I had no idea who I was without other people's approval. And living that way is so exhausting. It's like building your house on stand and being surprised every time a wave comes. So the identity audit is checking in with yourself regularly and asking yourself, what do I know to be true about me right now, independent of anyone else's opinion? Write it down if you have to. Your values, the things you keep choosing, the moments you're most yourself. Build that list. That's your foundation. And you know what I found? One of the biggest accelerators for this work, understanding yourself from the inside, knowing what drives you, what your patterns are, is actually understanding your happiness style. Because how you take things personally is connected to how you're wired. So some people take criticism hard because their nervous system is particularly attuned to connection. And some people spiral because they had a very strong inner perfectionist. And once you understand your particular flavor of sensitivity, you can work with it instead of against it. I made a quiz exactly for this. It's at iintendtobehappy.com. It's completely free, takes about 2 minutes, and it shows you where your happiness baseline actually sits and what most likely is getting in the way of it. The link's in the description. Here's what I want you to understand about all of this. When you stop taking everything personally, something really surprising happens. You get lighter. I don't mean in a floaty, spiritual, bypassing kind of way. I mean practically, physically lighter, because you're not carrying everyone's stuff anymore. You're not running every interaction through the filter of, what does this mean about me? And that filter is heavy. So think about how much your mental energy goes into that. Someone doesn't reply to your message, and your brain's off to the races. Are they mad at me? Did I say something wrong? Do they not like me anymore? This goes on for hours, sometimes days. What if that energy belonged to you? What if you could spend that energy on something else? This is what I mean when I say this is connected to happiness. Real happiness isn't just feeling good all the time. It's having access to yourself, having your own attention back. So when you stop making every interaction about your worth, you can actually be present for it. You can listen to people instead of monitoring them for signs of whether they approve of you. You can walk into rooms without your armor on. I think of it this way. Other people's behavior is weather. You can't control the weather. You can get caught up in the rain, you can be miserable, or you can have an umbrella. And that umbrella is knowing who you are, separate from what everyone else does or doesn't do. Chuck was a storm that day. I had my umbrella, I finished my song, so here's what I want you to take with you. Taking things personally isn't a character flaw. Your nervous system is doing what it was built to do. You don't need to be ashamed of it. You just need tools. So when the sting comes, and it will, ask yourself, is this mine? Pause for 3 seconds before you respond to anything or before you decide anything. And do the ongoing work of the identity audit. Know yourself from the inside so your foundation isn't resting on other people's opinions. And here's the bigger picture. The degree to which you stop filtering your life through what does this mean about me is exactly the degree to which you become free. That's not a metaphor. That's a lived reality. I've watched people transform when this clicks. I felt it myself. All right? So, I can know you're still here. You're someone who actually wants to grow. Take the quiz if you haven't. It'll give you something concrete to work with. And if this landed for you, please subscribe. I make these every week, and I'd love to continue teaching you on this journey. As always, be kind, take care, go gently in the world.